What is the right head position that will make you hold a handstand more easily? This is a question I usually get in the wrong way. People tend to ask what is the right head position and what are the wrong head positions. And just like with pretty much everything in handstands, there is no such thing as right and wrong. Reality is a bit more nuanced, and this video is about you understanding the difference between the four main head positions as well as finding the one that suits you. First things first, we need to go beyond the idea that there is such a thing as the one perfect head position that's going to work for everyone. It's much more so context dependent. Of course, if you're just trying to hold a handstand, there will be one head position that will suit you better, and we're going to see it in just a matter of seconds. But just take a moment to think about people performing or people working in environments where they need to be watching something else than the floor. For instance, we could think of the people playing capoeira. If you have ever watched them or practiced it yourself, you know that the last thing you want to be watching is your hands. You need to be able to see the other person as you freeze into a handstand, because what is more important than holding it for a minute is being able to interact with the person with whom you're playing. Similarly, if you're a professional dancer and at some point you want to be able to stick a handstand while looking at the audience, it's going to be essential for you to be able to hold a handstand without looking at your hands. But again, understand that in those cases, the head position is dictated by the demands of the environment or the context in which we practice the handstand. To understand that, in my method, we differentiate between four main head positions. One, the head out position. This is the position in which your head really sticks out, your neck is hyperextended, and you usually see past your fingertips. You usually look at the spot on the floor which is beyond your fingers. Then you have a more neutral head position in which the neck is much closer to its resting neutral position and feels a bit more lengthened. In this position, you will still see the floor, but maybe a different spot on the floor, maybe something that's in between both hands or a bit before those hands, so much so that you won't be able to see what's in front of your fingers. Then you have the head-in position, in which you're looking at the opposite wall if you're kicking up against the wall, or you're looking at the wall if you are chest to the wall. And if you are freestanding, well, you're obviously looking at the opposite wall with that head. And if you're performing capoeira, let's say, back to this, you are looking at your partner. Finally, there's the head to feet position. That's when we keep tucking the chin in all the way until it almost touches the chest, and we start looking up where our feet are. Now, the main thing I see with beginners is that when they practice with the wall, which again is absolutely essential, they tend to bring their head in as they settle in their position. This means that when they kick up against the wall, they bring their head in so much so that they should see the wall behind them, and when they set themselves up chest to the wall, they look at the wall against which they're resting. And there is a reason for that, which is very mechanical. When we bring the head in this way, it helps us perform that shoulder flexion that is at the core of your handstand, and something you have heard me repeat again and again and again in your classes, courses, and in those videos. When we bring that head in, it feels like we can go deeper in the stretch that we feel around the shoulders when we open that shoulder angle. And therefore, once we have understood what opening the shoulders feels like, it makes us feel that we're doing more of that, more of the good thing. In other words, not looking at the floor, not forcing yourself to look at those hands, helps you flex your shoulders better. And that's also why we see this happening in different shapes, such as the bridge. People, when they bridge, they flex the neck the same way because it helps us go deeper into that stretch. Now, this is why it's happening. It doesn't mean it's desirable, and I need you to understand why. Handstands should never be about blindly trusting what such and such course or teacher is saying, but more so understanding why some things work and why others don't. The two reasons why I advise you not to look in, not to bring your head in when you practice as a beginner are: one, balancing on our hands is hard enough as it is. It's hard enough to be able to learn to balance on your hands consistently, although we will get you there if you look at your hands. It becomes even harder if you don't see the floor. There is such a thing as the visual feedback that you get from looking at the floor as you balance. And the two head positions that allow you to do that are the first position, head out, and the neutral position. Whenever you decide to bring your head in, you lose that visual feedback, and this proves to be much harder to control at first and for the first few months/years. Sometimes we compare this with trying to balance on one foot. You can raise the heel of that foot and try to balance there, and then try to do the same while closing your eyes. And that kind of shows you that when your eyes are closed/when you don't have that visual feedback, things are a bit harder to control. Then the second and less known reason why I think you should not allow yourself to bring that head in once you are aware of it is that 99% of the people I see doing so bring their head in after they have kicked up or after they have set themselves up upside down. They do move their heads after they have entered the handstand, as if those two movements were separate. So let me rephrase that. Instead of kicking up in the desired head position, even if this was head in, or instead of climbing up that wall in that head position, they climb up the wall, they kick up against the wall, and then they change the head position. This is a big problem because handstands, when you know what you're doing, which is hopefully what those videos are here for, are similar to a big long list of items that you have to perform one after the other. It could be something like, first, swing the back leg as you kick up into your handstand, then push on the front leg. And as you push on that front leg, extend the front knee. And as you keep swinging the back leg, ensure that the back knee stays straight. And as you enter that first phase of the kick up, align the shoulders over the hands and flex your shoulders to bring your pelvis over the shoulders. And then add some tension so that you don't lose your handstand. Yada, yada, yada. The list goes on and on as you keep understanding better and better what handstands are about. Now, rest assured, if the list is not quite clear yet, we will dive into it together. The more experienced you become, and the better and more precise that checklist becomes. Not only that, but you will be able to differentiate what really matters from what is pure cosmetic. In other words, your priorities become a bit clearer. And finally, you will learn how to automate things so that you don't have to think about all those elements every time you kick up into a handstand, and you will bring them together. Maybe you can think simultaneously about pushing on that foot, extending that leg, and opening your shoulders without them being separate items on one same list. Now back to our head position now. Here's something very obvious that I need to remind you about. In a handstand, the less you move, the more chances you have to hold the handstand. And therefore, if you do not move your head, if you choose your head position before you kick up into a handstand and you stick with the head position that you have chosen, you have fewer chances of losing it than if you decide to kick up and then change your head position once you are upside down. Changing the head position once you are upside down is a habit you do not want to form, because chances are your head is around 5 kilos and moving it while your feet are up in the air will make that balancing act much more complicated. Those two things are why I advise you strongly to set your head to neutral as you kick up into a handstand, and you will keep it there until the end of the drill. This may require you to film yourself as you go upside down to notice, because you may not be aware of it, the number of movements you operate with your head, and try to bring stillness in there. Something that can help as well is to bring, let's say, a pen between both hands. This is what I do in classes. Bring a pen between both hands and look at that pen as you set yourself up to ensure that your head is not dramatically changing throughout your sets. And I suggest that you do that until you master your 15-second consistent straight handstand without the wall. And if you want to find more tips and tutorials and receive some direct feedback on your handstand from me, you can check out my courses, my classes, and my coaching options in the links below. I hope this was helpful. If you have any question, shoot them in the comments.